The spread has to stay. Talking offense, the whole ground and pound style will only go so far.
I like that. That's a valid point, man. We have a really nice quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, according to Coach Cristobal. He said there is no better quarterback in the country. I think having him, also having Jay Garcia, and also having the young brother Ja'Cory Brown committed, also who's a top 10 quarterback right now. He starts at free safety and quarterback for his team. He's like that. And he won a playoff game. He threw the game tying touchdown and then turned around and got the game sealing interception and then drove down and got the game winning touchdown in a playoff game to take his team to state. So anybody like that, I'll take on his team. Um, but I agree. I agree that we do need to have that approach. We do need to lean into our best player. And the best player on this team is Tyler Van Dyke, which is why going with the Joe Brady and going with the Kendall Browse would be really good for a guy like that. And I understand where people are coming from with that.
So I told you yesterday, Wholesome One, that I had one question/criticism of Mario, and it's a fairly obvious one because otherwise I don't have close, intimate knowledge of his career at Oregon. I watch all of college football. I watch Oregon play 4 or 5 times a year. I know what his record is. I know what he's done, what he's accomplished. But in terms of inner workings there, I'm not covering the team day by day, but at the same time, I know what's going on. And I can find no fault in what he accomplished, especially considering what he took over. So he took over a decent program. He took over a program that had a 4-8 season the 2 years before he was there. So they were 4-8 2 years prior to his first season. They were 7-6 under Willie Taggart, his final season in which he coached that Las Vegas bowl game. Then he took over 9-4, and then through his success. Okay. So I have no, in regards to what was being accomplished at Oregon and how he raised the winning percentage on the field, I don't know how anyone can have an issue with that. Secondly, he raised the level of recruiting at Oregon to a level that had never been reached. So people might assume that when Chip Kelly was there that they recruited out of their minds, and they didn't. Chip Kelly was pretty amazing in a lot of respects. 33-3 in the Pac-12. All BCS bowl games, came within a short chip shot field goal of winning a national championship. They dominated. But his recruiting classes, because I analyzed his recruiting classes when he took the UCLA job, and they were only recruiting in the top 15 to 20 in the nation. So what Mario Cristobal has done, 3 consecutive recruiting classes at Oregon, had not been done before that. And I'm talking about the best class in the Pac-12 and a top 8 to 10 class in the country those 3 years. So in terms of recruiting and producing results on the field that were much better than when he arrived, I have no criticism whatsoever. I don't know that anyone can. So the only glaring issue from this past season is the obvious. In addition to struggling, but winning against a lot of marginal teams, Cal, Oregon State, you could run down the list. Most of it has to do with these 2 Utah games. So as we talked about after the first Utah game, 38-7, name the coach. We can talk about embarrassing losses. They all have them at some point. No coach has a perfect record. Nick Saban lost the national championship game by 4 touchdowns. And as you mentioned, lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year at Alabama. So every coach, it's competition. There are going to be those days. But to take that same team that you would think would be highly motivated, number one, that it's a conference championship game. Number two, that they're lining up against a team that annihilated them just 2 or 3 weeks earlier. And then the same thing happens. the level of concern there that there weren't adjustments made, or that the motivation wasn't communicated to the players, and wasn't that there wasn't that level of fire and preparation put together to make for a better effort.
Yeah. Um, Mark, I don't like to get too personal in here, but I could only imagine what it would be like preparing for a season, latter half of the season in a playoff game, and having to make an emergency fly back home because your mom was very, very sick. Um, that's the only, I didn't really want to go there, but I could just only imagine what it would do to your psyche. And I'm not here to create excuses. I'm not trying to use what has happened with him personally as an excuse. I understand they lined up, they played ball against a solid Utah team, and got shellacked back to back. It's just there's no way around it. Um, and he'll have to wear that. It'll take him some time probably to ever really get over those two back-to-back losses, because you don't want to ever go out like that. And supposedly there was a rumor that him and Kayvon Thibodeau got into it at halftime, and Kayvon Thibodeau called him out and said, "You're distracted and you're not focused." And he retaliated and told him that he's getting beat by an offensive tackle who's going to be a car salesman in a couple of weeks. So there's that. So he does have some clapback to him. But yeah, it's a fair assessment. It's a fair conversation to have. There's other things you can say about him. There is the leaning into his seniors a little too much. There's a five-star freshman out of Arizona who sat on that bench while this seventh-year senior dude continued to hold the team back, and Coach Cristobal never went to the next guy. There's a conversation there. And I understand that. There's also the conversation of basically being the cardiac ducks. And the whole time you're watching the game, even for me as a Canes fan, rooting for Mario and rooting for his success, it was tough to watch those games week to week, because you knew he out recruited the entire Pac 12. He had the best teams. And yes, they are injury riddled. And yes, they're playing with second and third team guys. But you stacked that cupboard and you were there, and you weren't embarrassing a very mediocre conference. I get that. And like I said, those are all critical things that you can bring up. He lost to a Stanford team. He lost to an above average Arizona State team. He lost to a one win Oregon State team last year. Um, he was blessed to be in the Pac 12 championship game last year when they technically weren't supposed to be in it. But they were riddled with, COVID-19, so they were able to go. But even with all those things being said, I believe there are a lot of things on his positive side that outweighs that. But again, we can say it all the time. Every coach has their black eyes or their warts or their pimples, whatever you want to call them. Every coach has one. And you have to be able to accept that and hope that you can surround them with even better so that you don't get that. So, it is what it is, man. It's a couple bad losses, and he has some really nice wins. And again, one thing about him, this was the first time he lost to a team back to back like that. Usually he loses a game, he goes on a long win streak after that. They learn from it. In his bowl game preparation, in his time at Oregon, he's lost one bowl game, one in 4 seasons. So he's 3-1 in bowl games. That kind of stuff we would dream of being to have at Miami, man. I think we're 1-10 in bowl games in the last 11. So there's a lot. I see we got some super chats, so I'll shut up and let you get to it.
Yeah, so this super chat here coming in from Alex, appreciate that so much, Alex, is concerning the run game coordinator versus pass game coordinator. Joe Brady is a pass game coordinator, Frank Pons as running game coordinator.
Yep, that was something, we spoke about in my breakdown, in my list of coordinators. Yep.
So, yeah, we do have another super chat. Let's hit this. Got Wendell. Wendell, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Cristobal just needs to rebuild the wall around South Florida recruits. Do that and just run the ball and play defense. He'll win us another title.
I would expect Wendell to be kind of up there in age. That is a very old school approach. And I get that. The game is different. I don't necessarily know if there's such thing as building a wall with the way that everyone is able to recruit all over. The gig is up when it comes to Miami having this great talent, and South Florida has some of the best talent in all of the country. So there's people like the University of North Dakota. There's people like University of Minnesota. People like Iowa. People like Iowa State, North Dakota State. Teams like South Dakota State. Teams like Wyoming. They all go into that state, and they want to get this speed, and they want to be able to go and grab these athletic players. So I understand what you think as far as being able to build a wall. Then you also have a team moving up into a Power Five program at UCF, who is going to help take that. You used to have the big three where the top echelon was almost evenly distributed between the big three, but then those 3 and 2 stars that you help to build your program, your speedsters, your middle linebacker who's like Buster Douglas, middle linebacker who's 5'8.5", but you fly and have great effort, things like that. They would be the latter half of your top 25 scholarships, and they would help to build your program through that and the walk-on system and give great help, a great effort and things of that nature. But it kind of doesn't work like that, because guess what? Buster Douglas can go to UCF and start as a freshman. Why go up to Tallahassee and sit on the bench now? Or he can go over to Sam Houston State and play and be their all-time leading tackle and things of that nature. So I do understand your viewpoint, but I believe if you have a good program, then the best of the best is going to want to come, and they're going to want to come and play for your team and things of that nature. But you're still going to have Georgia, you're still going to have Bama for a little bit come in and grab some. But now we finally have a fighter's chance where we can swing with them. Some will lose, some will win, and we'll go from there. We'll go from there.
All right. Slow folk. Hashtag CWO. Do we keep the turnover chain?
Mark, it pains me to say this. Yes, absolutely. Turnover chain wasn't a problem for us. It got to the point, like I said, Mark, what was the one thing I said to you for the last couple of years? It's only a big deal when it's the focus of the teleprompt. Like now everyone has a turnover prop. So they just show, oh, he has a turnover chain back to the game. But like 2018, it was like, oh, the turnover chain. And you look at the score and we're down by 20. We had that happen a couple times this year. Cam Kitchens gets a turnover that wasn't a turnover. And you look at the score, we were down like 31-0. Everyone's going crazy about a chain, but it's going to be about the focus. If we were to keep the chain, if we were to have it around, I promise you it would not be the main focus of the defense. Doing your job at a high level, and then being rewarded with the chain is cool. That can be it. But as far as having this be the focus of all your recruiting trips, have this be the focus of your program. The goal that we want to have in the air is championship rings. Okay, that's what rings on the finger and the trophy in the air. That's what we want. Now, having the chain as a byproduct, cool, no problem. But don't make it the focus of your advertisements and things of that nature. And it's a very polarizing thing. We were the second program to do it. Alabama did it first with the turnover belt that debuted in 2015. We debuted in our turnover chain in 2017. The first person to wear it was Malik Young against Bethune-Cookman right before halftime and threw a Hail Mary, caught an interception in the end zone, and he put on a chain, and they caught it with the camera, and they're like, what is that? And they ended up doing a story on it. 2017 takes off. The damn game happens. We break the streak. Now we have Affleck giving chains to Deion Sanders. You got
Right.
Coach Saban open telling him, I know exactly what you need. He opens a box and hands him an Aflac chain. We got basketball teams, we got baseball teams who do chains because Miami came up with that. So again, I can understand why people have this frustration towards it. I can understand why people think that it makes you look like you're immature and you're not focused. Under the right leadership, all that stuff will be okay. You don't have to throw it away and try to turn into army and we do things right. We get a line and we do exactly what coach says. Sir, yes, sir. You don't have to do that kind of stuff. It's still Miami. It's still South Florida. We're still dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds. Okay. And if a chain and some rings, there's a part of the process here, and there's a part of what we do and what we bring to the table. It's not that big